On the last part, Android 17's wish to restore all of the universes resulted in the bringing back of universes that were erased by Zeno many centuries before. So, Grand Priest comes up with a plan to send representatives from each of the 12 universes to observe these other universes for a 10-year time period. So, Goku and Vegeta's family decided to travel over to the MHA universe. So now we get into the story. Goten decides to go for school and ends up being enrolled in the same class as Midoriya and ends up becoming friends with him. After hearing more about UA, he decides that he wants to join UA as well and decides to apply for the entrance exam. Trunks, of course, follows Goten's choice and decides to apply for the entrance exam as well. Meanwhile, Chi-Chi goes on her own career path to become a pro hero after realizing that pro heroes earn a lot of money. Meanwhile, Bulma continues on her enterprising path to establish a well-known tech company in the MHA universe, deciding to incorporate her capsule corp technology with this world's technology. On one of the school days, Goten accidentally talks about Ki to Midoriya, even though he wasn't supposed to, and this led to Gohan meeting Midoriya. Gohan tells Midoriya more about the power of Ki. However, he tells Midoriya to keep this between them because it was very important to not let anyone know about Ki, because it could potentially thwart the history of this universe. And Grand Priest has specifically stated that they were not to teach anyone Ki. However, Midoriya was very interested in this idea. If he could improve his own Ki control, maybe he could become stronger and accept All Might's power earlier. Meanwhile, Chi-Chi finally decides that it was time to become a pro hero. Meanwhile, Midoriya continues his training, and during his training he suddenly feels a small burst of power and believes that this could be due to the power of Ki. And as he was mumbling on and on, All Might listened in and was very interested with what Midoriya was saying. Midoriya realized he was mumbling out loud and immediately had a look of despair written on his face. Initially being reluctant to tell anyone more about Ki, Gohan finally relented and sat down on the sofa with All Might. All Might introduces himself as Yagi Toshinori, a teacher of Midoriya's. And now the story finally begins. How will this change the MHA storyline? Well, you'll find out today on What is Dragon Ball Super Mad My Hero Academia Part 2. After learning more about the topic of Ki, let's just call All Might Yagi Toshinori for now. Yagi asks Gohan whether enhancing his Ki will help make his weak body stronger. He shows Gohan his severe injury and tells him that this was inflicted by a villain during his days as a hero. He neglects to tell them about his real hero identity as All Might, as this was not a safe topic to talk about. Gohan ponders and thinks that learning more about Ki and enhancing the power of Ki in his body would probably be able to make his weak body stronger. And Goku, who was listening to all this, sympathized and empathized with All Might. After all, if he had been injured by a villain permanently and couldn't fight, he would be sad as hell. So he finally made up his mind and decided that he wanted to train All Might. He approaches Gohan about this, but Gohan argues with Goku. They weren't even supposed to tell anyone about Ki, much as teach them. This was what Grand Priest had specified right before they left, that they were not to make significant changes that could affect this world. However, Goku was insistent in this matter. Eventually, Gohan finally relents, not wanting to deal with his father's stubborn nature. Goku walks over to Toshinori and tells Toshinori that they will be starting their training right away. Goku takes a good look at Toshinori, noting his frail and weak body, and knows that Toshinori is likely not able to handle the severe intensity of gravity training. Instead, he tells Toshinori that they will be doing some meditation instead, and he will teach Toshinori how to harness the ki in his body and use it. After a week passes by, Toshinori realizes that he had made good progress. In fact, he thought that the idea of ki sounded a lot like the idea of one for all. Both were energy stores in his body, and his experience with using one for all had allowed him to pick up ki usage very fast. Goku was pretty impressed as well. He didn't have a student that could pick up ki as fast as All Might did. But that's enough talking about All Might. Let's move on to the actual storyline. Midoriya, due to his own training with ki, manages to enhance his physical capabilities to a larger extent, and All Might deemed him ready around 1 month before the UA entrance exam, as he tells Midoriya to eat a piece of his hair. Of course, Midoriya didn't want to, but All Might forces it down his throat, allowing Midoriya to inherit his power of one for all. After a full month with practicing with All Might's one for all quirk, Midoriya could use it at about 3%. However, when he was using it, he still felt like he was very unstable, and he still couldn't really control the power very well. However, his experience with training his own body's ki allowed him to pick up on it slightly faster, even though he was relatively new to both different concepts. Finally, it is the day of the UA entrance exam, the day that decides Midoriya's fate. Despite being slightly nervous, Midoriya was excited. He wanted to see how his training had turned out and how he will be able to fare against other participants in this exam. Midoriya was walking happily over to the UA entrance exam area. He was walking together with Goten and Trunks, and he has actually never met Trunks before today, but he seems like a pretty nice guy and was even willing to be friends with him. However, in all his excitement, Midoriya accidentally stumbles on the stair and almost falls flat on his face. Goten and Trunks couldn't react fast enough to catch Midoriya. However, suddenly a person slaps him on the wrist and he started levitating. This person was none other than Uraruka Ochako, who had just saved him using her zero gravity quirk. She greets him and then walks away into the area for the briefing, and Midoriya was just shocked that a girl was actually willing to talk to him. After the written exam portion, which Midoriya was pretty confident about, it was now time for the practical exam portion. Midoriya was scared as hell. He didn't know how he was going to perform against the robots. And as soon as the exam started, Midoriya was already falling behind. Everyone else was ready besides him. Midoriya rushes forward with 3% of 1 for all as he pummels different robots over and over again. However, the time was slowly ticking down, and Midoriya only had 15 points. This was when he saw a girl trapped under the rubble, the same girl that prevented him from falling flat on his face about few hours back. That was Uraruka Ochako. Normally, being trapped under a pile of rubber wouldn't be that bad, but there was a 0-pointer hovering right above her, about to smash her into 1,000 different pieces. Midoriya's body reacted on its own as he rushed towards Uraruka, lunging into the air using 100% of 1 for all, effectively completely breaking his legs as he lunges a powerful punch on the 0-pointer, causing the 0-pointer to explode and causing Midoriya to plummet towards the ground. Midoriya had no way to stop his fall, and as he was about to meet his end, Uraruka slaps him on his hand, causing him to float once again. And then Uraruka releases her quirk as they both collapse to the ground, exhausted and injured, with Uraruka vomiting all over the floor. Meanwhile, at the other practical exam arena, Trunks was having a blast. He was just flying around destroying robots in his way with ease, and he had gotten over 120 points in the first minute of the practical exam, and that was just him holding back most of his power. Meanwhile, below Trunks, a certain someone was seething in anger. The practical exam had just ended, and he knew that he had lost the number 1 spot in the UA entrance exam. This person was none other than Bakugo. Bakugo saw Trunks get nearly 300 points during the UA entrance exam, with him only getting a mere 75. That was pathetic. To him, he should have been the indisputable number 1. However, he was just beaten by some random kid. After the entrance exam, Bakugo returns home as he takes up his pen and signs up for quirk strengthening as well as martial arts classes. He wouldn't allow anyone to surpass it. And this is where we'll leave off for now. Do you think Midoriya will get accepted into UA? Do you think Bakugo can catch up to Goten and Trunks? Do you think All Might will be able to learn and harness Ki? Well, you have to find out next time on What If Dragon Ball Super Met My Hero Academia.